it with the family.
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
You deserve more than a bank. At An Post Money, we understand that big decisions are easier to make when things work with you, not against. So, whether you want to get a new car or landscape a summer garden escape, you'll find a loan that's built around you with our new low standard rate and simple process. Visit onpost.com/loans or your local post office. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. New applications only. An Post acts as a credit intermediary on behalf of Avantcard DAC. An Post trading as An Post Money is authorised as a credit intermediary by the CCPC. Avantcard DAC trading as Avant Money is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Over 800,000 people tune into News Talk every week. They tune in to listen. They're engaged, interested, maybe even interested in your business. Whether you're selling to customers, to businesses, selling online, or getting ready to reopen, your next customer could be listening right now. If you'd like to talk to them, talk to us. Email advertising@newstalk.com.
I'm not the kind of person who wants to sit in a metal box. I don't want to slowly die in traffic. I want to ride a motorbike. And I want to keep riding a motorbike. I don't want to suddenly die in traffic. I'm not the kind of person who wants to lie in a wooden box.
Biking is a joy. Don't let it kill you. Half of biker fatalities are caused by motorcyclist speeding, so ease off the throttle and keep within the speed limit. From the Road Safety Authority.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Jack Byrne is the new Wes. Skillful, picks a pass, and doesn't get picked for Ireland. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Every day this week we're giving away 4 tickets for the upcoming Leaders Lounge live event. There's a ticket for you and 3 friends along with a hamper of goodies to enjoy. It's all happening on April 22nd. A world-class panel of leaders including Razzie Erasmus, Brian O'Driscoll, Chanel McCoy, Joanne O'Riordan and Paul McGinley to be in with a chance of winning. Just tell us which former Australian out-half works alongside Johan van Gran on Munster's coaching ticket. Text your name and answer to 53106 for 30 cent. We'll contact you after the show. All with thanks to Leaders Lounge. You can check out leadersloungelive.com. The texts continue to come in. The feeling is strong out there on Nathan Murphy and his dilemma. Jamesy says there are grounds for an Ole-style withdrawal of rations for this behaviour. And Obi-Wan says it's like putting blackcurrant in Guinness. Well, indeed. Let's get on to the Champions League. Always good to have Philippe Auclair with us. Hiya, Philippe.
Good evening to you.
Hansi Flick has said that Bayern will need a mini upset this evening. I would think a bit bigger than mini, no?
No. No, I think a mini upset, in statistical terms, it would be a major upset because if I've seen it correctly, I think 100 out of 103 teams which have won away from home 3-2, 95% have qualified. I'm talking in European competitions. So in statistical terms, you would imagine that PSG, well, it's not you would imagine, PSG is a massive favourite. But we all know that what happened in the first leg was odd, as well statistically speaking. It's pretty unusual that a team that has got 31 shots on goal compared to 6 ends up with 2 goals scored against 3 conceded to start with. And also there are many other elements which make many people in Paris quite, I would say, worried, but a little bit insecure about what's going to happen, especially the fact that this is far from the strongest team that Mauricio Pochettino could have hoped to put on the pitch tonight. Loads of big players missing, especially Marquinhos, but there are others. I mean, I've got a list here. It's I was looking at it. I mean, Fiorenzi, Verratti, obviously, who had COVID, is convalescing on the bench, but not in the starting lineup. Kurzawa, Icardi, Bernat as well. So, which means you've got a defense, particularly for PSG, which is, I think there's one player in the back four that has been chosen by Mauricio Pochettino, who would normally be in the starting lineup, and that's Kimpembe. All the others are plan Bs. So given how PSG was under the cosh the first leg, you can understand why so many people in Paris are a little bit concerned, shall we say, and certainly not taking qualification for granted.
I didn't get to watch the match as closely as I would like. I'm in here, I'm on studio, I'm on air, but I definitely caught a fair percentage of those 31 attempts which led to the 2 goals. Why didn't they convert more, to ask a simple question with a complicated answer?
The very simple answer to that is that they didn't have a guy called Robert Lewandowski.
Yeah, that helped.
You see, I think that with Robert Lewandowski in that side, we wouldn't be talking about PSG's chances of qualifying for the semi-final. I think we would be talking about a walk in the park, or a walk in the Parc des Princes, to coin an expression, which actually might be used by a few people tomorrow morning if my fears are, founded, which I believe they are. I think that it was mostly a case of not having the players available on the night who could make those chances, to transform these chances into goals. The one thing that you would say for PSG is that they've got in their side players who are capable of transforming, making goals out of nothing. And with a huge conversion rate, obviously Kylian Mbappe is in very, very good form at the moment. Neymar is on the way back. We shall see what kind of Neymar we've got tonight. Angel Di Maria is always a very dangerous player. And Julian Draxler has been very often a player who's been a bit underrated when you think of his performances for PSG. So they've got the arguments going forward, no doubt about that. But it's the rest of the team that is a concern. They've got a very fine keeper in Keylor Navas, who had a fantastic game, by the way, in the Allianz Arena in the first leg. But they will have to be at their absolute best. And it's a thing that really struck me is that the kind of words and discourse I've heard from PSG and people around the club and people in France in general is how wary they are of this return leg. And there is an element of fear there. And in the past, this element of fear has very often been the greatest handicap for PSG. I mean, they're wildly inconsistent. You cannot tell which PSG you're going to get. Are you going to get the inspired PSG you got, for example, against Barcelona? You remember the 4-1. We all remember this picture of Gerard Piqué desperately hanging on to the coattails of Kylian Mbappe. Are we going to get the PSG that we saw against Lyon, which won 4-2? Or are we going to see the PSG that we saw actually trembling for a while against Barcelona in the return leg, 1-1, or the PSG we saw against Nantes or against Lille recently in the league, who were abysmal, absolutely abysmal.
I saw that actually, which was very interesting. So
yes,
they beat Barcelona 4-1 away and then draw 1-1 at home. And you mentioned that 1-0 defeat at home to Lille, but then maybe their best performance of the season had been the previous month, 4-2 away to Lyon. And Pochettino said this week, I agree, we've been better away from home. It's something we'll have a look at the end of the season. I was thinking, do you maybe have a look at it now? Maybe don't wait. Why?
Yes.
So they're struggling a little bit away from home, struggling a little bit at home for some reason.
Yeah, which is bizarre in this season of all seasons, where honestly, where you play shouldn't make much of a difference, apart from the fact that you have perhaps a shorter trip to the stadium. That's about it. But they've lost also. You're quoting those defeats, but they've lost to Manchester United. They've lost to Marseille, which is really quite something to lose against the Marseille of that time, which was on the third, I think, round of the French league. They've lost to Monaco. They've lost to Lille. They've lost every time they've been against a rival, an opponent, which had some class, and I would put Nantes away from that. They've lost.
Right.
They've lost, and they've lost. I think 3 games on the trot at home, which hadn't happened to them since 2009-10. And stats sometimes are meaningless, but this one is meaningful. It hasn't happened to them for 11 years, and at the time, this was the PSG team which had finished 13th in the league. So not at all the same kettle of fish whatsoever. And which explains the nervousness around this tie, because people saw the first leg and realized it was a bit of a miracle. Now, miracles can happen twice. Lightning can strike twice. It can happen. But everybody knows they're going to have to be... the first goal is probably going to be absolutely massive, to use a footballing adjective, on the night. And you can imagine if Bayern were to score first, that it could unravel pretty quickly.
And when they're bad, Philippe, what are the hallmarks of a bad PSG?
When they're bad, as the poem said, they're horrible.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Yeah, well, there you go. Showing my British culture here. But no, when they're bad, they're very, very bad indeed. And in fact, you could say that in the first leg, there were moments where they were very, very bad indeed. And it just happened to be one of those nights where you have... It has happened to Manchester City as well in a few games, where a team that possesses the ball and as the lion's share, not the lion's share, it would be the pride's share of the ball, doesn't quite do what it should be doing with it. And also is, in front, confronted with a keeper who is in great form, and a very fine keeper indeed. But they haven't, when they've been bad, against Lille, they were truly awful. And they lose all shape, they lose their dynamism, the qualities which you saw, for example, not that long ago, on the way to the Champions League final in 2020, they were sometimes, confronted with real difficulties, but they managed to find a way through it. But when they're bad, it just goes. It's just like the wheels fall off completely. It's a very strange. It's a strange team. It's a strange club. And again, I come back to that, which is why after winning 3-2 away from home, you still think that the hardest part of the tie is still to come. And when you listen to Pochettino, it's very much the impression I got when he was talking about the holder of the title is still the favorite. I think he really meant it. It was not just one of these things where you say, oh, we're only, 45 minutes in the tie, something like that. It's there's a real awareness of the fact that they were the inferior side in the first leg. They won it, and they're still the inferior side, and they're a bit shaky about that, especially given, again, the absentees, because everybody's been talking about Lewandowski and Gnabry and Goretzka being doubtful, things like that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't forget that PSG are missing some of their absolute key players. And you're talking about a team which has nowhere near as deep a squad as Bayern has. Nowhere near. When you look at, the back line is going to be Dagba, who is 22 years old, Danilo, who is a defensive midfielder. I'm talking of the back line here, who will be the partner of Kimpembe, super player, no problem with that. And then the young Abdou Diallo as well. Of this back four, only one player would normally be in the starting 11. One.
Right. And do you anticipate then an evening where PSG, even though they are at home, sit deep, stay organised, try not to concede, and try and sucker punch Bayern on the break again? It worked okay the last day, I suppose. It's very, it's unbecoming of the champions-elect that they want to be, but maybe needs must.
Well, I would also think it's not the kind of setup that Mauricio Pochettino would try to use. I would imagine that he would think of a more dynamic setup, and they can obviously threaten and score goals. And I would imagine that in his mind, it would be better to be on the front foot. One thing that Pochettino has stressed in his press conference, and again, quoting from press conferences, normally you would think, well, it's just propaganda, it's just words, words. Pochettino is somebody who genuinely tells the truth. When he talks about the necessity to have more possession of the ball, he means it. So I would imagine, I would hope as well, that PSG is going to go for a more proactive, more dynamic approach to the game. Sitting back and inviting Bayern to come is inviting disaster. They won't survive. No way. Absolutely no way. The way they will go through to the semi-final is by being perhaps, again, more proactive and using their strengths. They've got fantastic players going forward.
Yeah.
And hopefully as well, they can bring in a couple of the players who are not quite as fit as they should be. And I'm thinking here especially of Verratti, who is a big miss for them, to bring him on later on in the game if they need to manage it or they need to be able to have more possession. Then they will use him. But it's really fraught. It's going to be fascinating, I must say. It's a game that I'm really, really looking forward to.
Yeah, listen, you've really sold it. I think we're all looking forward to it now. And Verratti's coming back from COVID, so that's where he is. I suppose the real argument for PSG is for Bayern to go through, they can win 2-0. But then if PSG score one measly goal, Bayern do have to score 3. Now that is still a seriously good night for Bayern, or else they can win 4-3 and go through. But 3-2 means a draw and extra time and all that kind of fun and games. And based on the 2 goals alone we saw the last day, or his goals at the Nou Camp, Mbappe is 8 for 8 for PSG in the Champions League. The most, by the way, a French player has scored in a Champions League campaign is 8. Trezeguet, I think, amongst them. Surprised it wasn't Henry, but Trezeguet was there. So look, Mbappe's in his own private war with Erling Haaland right now, and he's in amazing form. You can't tell me Mbappe's not going to score a goal this evening. I can't see it. Bayern are pretty open at the back too.
I would agree with you. He's in fantastic form at the moment, and he's basically back to his best at the moment. I mean, after having problematic few months, he's back to his best. You would also imagine that Neymar could also, I hope he's going to be better than he was against Lille, for example. But they have got those 2 players, and it's true that if you look at Bayern and you look in this, in their lineup, you would think they don't have players like that. Lewandowski is one in a completely different register, but they don't have this kind of, super special players. I think Thomas Müller is one, but not in that same mold. Kimmich is another one, but not in that same mold. As in players who can make things happen out of absolutely nothing. And they've got 2. And I would say they've got 3 because they've got another half in Di Maria. And don't forget, again, Julian Draxler, whom I think is very underrated, and people who have followed his performances with PSG, that very often he's been the joker in the pack, so to speak. So he could make a difference. But yes, I mean, I would imagine that, we had 5 goals in the first leg. I would say we're going to get more tonight than 5. And that's the thing. That's why what you're saying is absolutely true. If it's 2-1 to Bayern, PSG still goes through. I don't think it's going to be 2-1, honestly.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. PSG, by the way, someone was texting in asking how they're doing domestically. They're second in the table, 3 points behind Lille. So a little bit of pressure there as well. Unthinkable for PSG not to win the league, I presume, Philippe.
Unthinkable, but there's a genuine chance it might happen. I mean, they had an awful start to the league season when they lost their first 2 games. I mean, they were knackered basically after they didn't have a pre-season. It was just ridiculous. They went straight from the Champions League final to the start of the French season, which didn't make any sense. But they've already lost 8 games, I believe, which is quite extraordinary for PSG. And it's a fascinating race in which you have Lille up front with this wonderful manager whom I think we might see in a big club next year, Christophe Galtier. And then we've got Monaco, who is my personal favorite for the title. So I put myself across here.
Yeah.
And Olympique Lyonnais, which is still in the race. And we've got, just checking, 4 teams in 5 points, which is after 32 games. This could make for a very interesting end to the season indeed.
There's a text in saying Philippe is a fantastic correspondent. His English is depressingly excellent. And that's not even to speak of your accent either, Philippe. So the plaudits are coming in. What are you saying this evening then? I am telling you now, you can relax. PSG are going to go through. There's no problem here. What are you saying to me? You're a worried man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate and envy your confidence. That's what I would say. I don't feel that confident at all.
Okay.
And in a way, that's the way I want to be, because this is, we don't have many of those ties, and this one is a little bit special between two teams which on their day can be absolutely magnificent. Both of them are short of their full potential at the moment in terms of the personnel they can put on the pitch, but I still think that PSG will come short.
Wow.
And when I say that, it's not a double hex. It's just no, honestly.
No, sure, I believe it.
It's a feeling I've had from the beginning. Even at the end of the first leg, I thought to myself, this is not going to happen twice. This is not possible. And if Bayern need to score 5, they will score 5, because this PSG defense, even though they've got a phenomenal keeper, I mean, Keylor Navas has been just magnificent for them. So you could have one of these evenings. You see, I'm contradicting myself, but that's what we love. And I don't think the defense can hold against this Bayern team, but maybe Keylor Navas is going to just have another of those performances where he does miracles in the PSG goal.
Yeah. All wonderfully unpredictable. Philippe, thanks so much. Pleasure. Enjoy the game.
Thank you.
Philippe Auclair, always great to have him on. So there we are. Kicks off at 8 o'clock. Chelsea against Porto as well. Updates across the evening. Football on Off the Ball. With thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Fake crowd noise? The Emirates never sounded so good. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
The Future Proof Podcast.
You may never have heard of No Tail, aka Johan Sun.